You know, I made a video yesterday. It's to try and scare me if we go on the path. You know, there's plenty of room on the road to go over the other side. He's just a fanny. Yeah, I made the video yesterday about the people when they're pushing their empty prams, so they don't like that, right? They have to retaliate. But I said in that video the fact that it was the second time that I tried to make it, and during the first time, I kind of spoke a little bit about the fact that they're obsessed with women, or I don't know if it's women in general or whether it's just me, but any time that I've been on my period, sorry if this is too much information, they're really obsessed with it. You know, they've stolen used sanitary towels from my house before. You know, when I went to my brother's last year, and I was in Brighton waiting for a train to go to London and then connect to go up north, and it was during my time of the month, and they had a worker from the train, so I was stood outside the train station having a cigarette, and this woman came over near to where I was standing, and the train worker come over to speak to her, you know, right next to me, and he said, "I saw your little boy fell over earlier and he was bleeding, is he okay?" And she laughed, you know, and she was looking directly at me and she went, "Yeah, he bleeds for ages." You know, it was just in reference to the fact that I was on my period at the time. It's so weird and deviant, but you know, some people refer to when you're on your period as having the decorators in. So when I got back yesterday, they had some guy in painting the walls in the house, you know, which I thought was quite funny. You know, the significance, it wasn't lost on me. I'm not kind of unaware of what it is that they're doing. I do find it funny sometimes, I do. You have to laugh. But yeah, he made sure that he wasn't in the house when I was coming in. You know, when I was walking in, he made sure that he was out of his van. And then when I went out, he was painting in the upstairs hallway. And then when I went, this is a fucking gang-stalking piece of shit, this one as well. When I went down to cook myself something to eat, he made sure that he kind of hid in one of the rooms. Fucking spazzy, man. I really do hope most of them die, I really do. He made sure that he was hiding in one of the rooms so I didn't see him. And then this morning, he made sure that he was stood at the bottom of the stairs when I was coming out, so I couldn't do anything to kind of avoid him, you know, avoid seeing him. I'll tell you why, because what it's carrying has significance. That's how I know that it's a piece of shit. I can't be arsed going into it, because there'd be a whole explanation, but she, the fuckface, knows what she's doing, and I know what she's doing, so yeah, that's that. So I had to speak to him this morning, I had to see him, there was no way of avoiding him. And they kind of set up these little interactions, you know. So I was saying, oh, the walls look good, you know, and he was back in to do his second day, he's finished what he hadn't been able to do yesterday. And we were kind of having a conversation, and he said, you know, it seems like a waste of time at times because people don't care about their environment. You know, some of the people that live in these houses, they'll just lose their key and they'll kick their door in, you know, which was reference to the fact that if you've read any of my posts, you'll know that about 3 months ago I had to kick my door in because I locked myself out of my room, and I said that to him. I said, oh, I had to do that, and he goes, oh, did you? You know, like he didn't know, like he hadn't been sent to fucking say that. But then he also said something about some of the houses, you know, not the ones here, but other houses. There's ones in Bognor Regis, and that's where I'm walking to now. Another one. Ugh. Goodness gracious, be ashamed if that was your child, wouldn't you? Hope my children don't get up to this shit. I know the oldest one probably does, but yeah, the other one I have a bit more faith in. He said, some of the houses in Bognor Regis, which is where I'm walking now, are terrible. And he looked right in my eyes when he said it, and then he went reactive, like just out of nowhere, just said the word reactive. It was so fucking strange, you know, like it didn't have any meaning, and I kind of looked for a split second like, what are you talking about? I didn't say anything, obviously. But it's like, I don't know, was he looking at my eyes when he said Bognor Regis because he wanted to find out where it was that I was walking today, or Was he trying to get a reaction from something else? Because I keep one of my eyes covered most of the time, and it was uncovered, so he was seeing if there was a kind of reaction for something he'd said, you know. It's so weird, it's like they're hooked up to some fucking supercomputer, aren't they, you know. Also during the conversation he said the name Lawrence, and he used that name 3 times, and I've no idea who Lawrence is. I just presumed that it was some kind of, you know, building manager or something like that, you know. Sometimes, you know, these things that these people say, they have significance to me. I know that they're important, and I don't know how it is that I know. Whether it's like some kind of micro expression that they're using, maybe it's a change in their tone that I'm not consciously picking up, you know, that I'm subconsciously picking up on, but I don't have any awareness what it is. But there's conversations that I've had with people years and years and years ago that I still remember, certain kind of words or phrases, little bits of that conversation, and they stand out in my mind, and I don't know why, but they always kind of point me in directions, you know. They're always kind of useful to me, so it's like a kind of sixth sense, if you know what I mean. Or maybe they're just putting emphasis on the word. Maybe I'm giving myself a bit too much you know, kudos or whatever the word is, and they're putting emphasis on the word so that I do remember it, so that I know the meaning behind it, you know. Maybe I'm just thinking that I'm some kind of fucking, have some kind of sense when when it's clear that maybe I don't have any sense. But he said the name Lawrence 3 times, and when I was walking, you know, this was only about an hour and a half ago. It's about 2 hours to get to Bognor Regis. It's about 7 or 8 miles from where I live. But I was walking, and I was I was thinking, what does Lawrence signify, you know, how's that name fit in? And the only thing that I could think of was a woman called Claudia Lawrence, or Claudia Lawrence, and she went missing years and years ago, you know. She's never been found, no trace of her has ever been found. And I thought, that's it, isn't it? That's the kind of threat, isn't it? You know, that's why he had to make sure that he said that name 3 times, you know. The 3 is significant for them as well. They have to use these little fucking spells 3 times, and, you know, as a warning, or so that it sinks in, kind of thing. But then it got me thinking about, you know, the fact that when I went to stay with my brother last year, there was a place where I stood outside his house to have a cigarette all the time, and one morning I went out there and there was a little dead mole outside, and there was no damage on it, like it hadn't been run over or anything. It was perfect, apart from that it was dead. And I thought at the time, someone's trying to tell me something, you know, mole, my brother's a mole, or fucking whatever it is that they're trying to say, you know. But this, it's got significance, you know. It has, these things just don't happen. It's not, you know, the little mole didn't happen to have a fucking heart attack in the exact spot where I stand and have a cigarette. You know, I don't think so anyway. So I kind of looked up, and I was googling moles, and one description, I think it was Wikipedia, and it said, it's a quote from a poem, or I mean, you can go and look it up yourself, hopefully it's still there, a poem or a book or a story or something, and it said, you know, a little gentleman in a velvet jacket. And then my brother got back from work, and I said, oh, there's a little dead mole. And we went down together to see it, and he looked at it and he went, oh, poor little gentleman. You know, just out of fucking nowhere. And I just looked up that description earlier on. It's so weird, it's like they're fucking tapped into something, unless it was that he was just spent his time at work looking, you know, what it was that I was doing online. That wouldn't surprise me either. But I tell you, to kind of finish with the kind of Claudia thing, during the time that I stayed there with him, he brought home a pigeon that someone had handed into his work, this sick pigeon. Well, pigeon, stool pigeon, means snitch, like police snitch. It's like a phrase for being a snitch, and they try and tell me that I'm a snitch because I anonymously reported to the police about who killed a man called Paul Booth, who's missing in Cumbernauld. Although the police never took any notice, they're not interested because they know who killed Paul Booth, and they don't care because it's one of their little informants. There's one for you, Fiona. I get these all the time now since you put that video up. Yeah, so they try and refer to me as a snitch. I mean, a snitch is what criminals call other criminals, and I'm not a criminal, so I'm not a fucking snitch doing my civic duty reporting the murder of a man. But there we go. Hey ho, these cunts can say what they want. So one time we were out walking and my brother picked up a blade of grass and put it between his thumbs and blew through it. You know, it makes that kind of whistle, raspy noise. I'm sure you all know what I mean. But I was having a serious conversation at the time. I was talking about something really important. I was really emotional, you know, speaking about what had happened to me. And he chose that moment to blow through this bit of grass, you know, and make this noise. Like, just totally cutting me up, a real narcissistic thing to do, making me lose my train of thought, etc., you know. And I looked at him as if kind of, you know, why would you choose that moment? I'd stopped what I was saying, and I looked at him and he looked at me and went, like smiled, smirked, and then went, grass, you know. And I thought, yeah, I know what you're getting at, you know, because you're a member of that little fucking network and you don't like it that I've grassed on one of your buddies. But anyway, so he brought this pigeon home and it died, but the day before it died, he came back from work and I'd been fucking meant to look after this stupid scabby thing all day, and he got home from work and he went, how's Cloudy? And I went, who's Cloudy? And he goes, the pigeon, I've decided to name it Cloudy. And it kind of makes sense now, doesn't it? Cloudy, Claudia, Lawrence. You know, that was like another little threat. At the time I thought he was referring to Cloud A, like Cloud iCloud, because he'd had access to my iCloud because they'd hacked everything of mine. You know, my iCloud being one thing. He kind of made reference to the fact that he loved Google because he could log into Google and Google would tell him exactly where he was on any day for like 30 years, the last 30 years. And what he was really saying was that he'd been hacking me all my life and watching my every fucking move, but they just kind of have to say it in such a way, you know, as if you don't know what it is that they're talking about. But anyway, that's what I was. Hope that made sense. Hope any of that made sense. I don't know if anything I say makes any fucking sense. Hopefully it makes sense to someone, you know. Anyway, lots of love to you all. Take care. God bless to you all.